Well, thank you for staying with us. There are interesting stories around agriculture. And of course, to remind you that on this show, we bring you news that you can use. And in keeping with that, we want to get into this discussion now around the Nyota variety of beans. And just remind you that our guests are still here with us here in studio, of course, that being Ruth Ndongo, who's this bean seed multiplier, and Dr. David Karanja from Calrob. Karibuni sana to both of you. Now, from the outset, before we get into the technical aspects, I want to start with you, Ruth. And the perspective here is that you are a contract farmer and that you work around beans. So how did you get into that space and who do you contract to?
Okay. I was brought up by farmers.
Yes.
I was educated through farming. Then I trained and became a teacher, a primary school teacher. But I decided to try farming. So I began by hiring land in Narok. And I started growing beans. Then I was introduced into Nyota beans. And I realized it was doing better than the other variety of beans. After that, I got introduced into seed multiplication. So for now, I'm doing seed multiplication and Caro, also, and a beans company that is called Agripack, Kenagro. Yeah.
So just to clarify for our viewers that when a lot of people will go to the agrovets to buy seeds for various things. Those seeds are developed by somebody like Caro through research, and then they're multiplied for the market by a person like you before they now get the chemical coatings and things like that, right? Talk to us in simple terms around that process.
Okay, I think what Caro does, they develop the beans.
Yes.
There are people that are learned. I don't know how they do it. Then they give to the seed multipliers a very high quality of seed. And then we multiply that
so you essentially grow them?
Yeah, I grow them on the farm. I do it practically.
Yes.
Then I take care of them.
Yes.
After that, we do the sorting. And then Caro will come and take the beans from us after sorting, and then they will dress them. Then take them to the agrovets, where now the farmers can buy them.
I think this is a good place to bring in Dr. Karanja as the expert around that to fill in the technical gaps for us. So for a lot of people, they will not understand that value chain around seeds. So like she said, the variety is developed, then it's grown, it's multiplied, and then goes to. So give us a bit of detail around that so that people can then see what's behind the curtain when it comes to seeds that they buy from the agrovets.
We normally sit down as researchers, look at what farmers are growing, find out what problems are the people having. Like now with the climate change, especially people in Ukabani, Homa Bay, what we call the areas that have issues with rainfall.
The marginal areas.
The marginal areas. They were growing mostly Nyayo, which requires a bit more rainfall. And that means those farmers, every time they plant, then they make huge losses. So now what would we do to replace? So we normally do breeding. Yeah, you evaluate, you cross the various varieties. Then we came up with the Nyota plus few others. And then at that level, at the breeder's level, you have to produce what we call a breeder seed. Then that is multiplied further to what we call a pre-basic. That goes to the carrot seed unit. Then the carrot seed unit now produces what is called basic. Now the seed companies like Agripack, Seedcode, Ryrad Seed, Vetagro, there are several, about 8. They go for licensing, then they come and purchase the pre-basic basic. That's what now they give to their contract growers now to multiply further. So that now it goes in, then they process, pack, and then they are fed to the farmers for sale.
Very shortly, what does it take to become a contract farmer? Because people will be wondering, this is a space in the value chain that they not be aware about.
It takes very little. One has to have RAD. and one has to be willing, but also need to get to the companies. But I wouldn't want to talk more about contract seed farming.
Yes.
Because if every farmer in Kenya goes into contract seed farming,
then we have a problem.
Then who do they sell to? But rather the people who do the grain,
yes,
the one that goes to the consumer. That is where a lot of farmers, a lot of youth, that people can go into business. And it's very simple for somebody to know whether they will make money. It's the productivity. Yes.
I want you to hold that thought because we want to go on a short commercial break. But when we come back now to get into the nitty-gritty of this, of course, our youth, our audience really want to hear how they can make money into this space. So stay with us. In about 2 or 3 minutes, we'll be back with that conversation around how this variety of beans, this of course being Nyota, can be the one that actually makes or breaks your agriculture productivity. Stay with us. Back in just 2 minutes.
Tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja kuimarisha Kenya, ni jukumu la Kenya.
Omoka na dakika mamili every 20 minutes. Multiply bet yako times 5,000 kila draw. Ukicheza na 20 bob only una daka laki yako. 40 bob wins you 200,000. Ukicheza na 100 unashinda nusu milioni. Millions to be won every day. Cheza daka, pesa bika na washindi. Ni rahisi. Nenda kwenye paybill 440 account KTN, amount shilingi 20 hadi shilingi 2,000, and get your cash with direct to your M-Pesa. Cheza daka.
Wacha tufurahi, sote tufurahi. Fiti. Haikuwa rahisi tufike my baby leo hii. Na hapa tulipo, ndio siku yetu ipo muhimu ya harusi. Fiti baby, haikuwa rahisi tufike my love leo hii. Na hapa
dial star 811 star 921 hash to get Siku Yetu by Zabron.
And the first thing we need to do is recognize that there is no such accounting terminology as pending bills. It is liabilities that we are incurring and we are not paying for various reasons. You'll find people giving excuses that they're not paying pending bills because they don't have exchequer releases. And I have challenged them and asked the accounting officers, if by the end of a certain period of time you've received your full exchequer, whether it was delayed by a month or two, then it means that the pending bills that you are disclosing must match or align to the exchequer releases that you've not received.
Palm oil is very important for using in products that consumers use, like bread, biscuits, other things like deep frying chips, potatoes. It's also very important as a nutrition requirement because it gives some form of energy to the consumer.
Questions that people ask is there any risks associated with doing palm oil? And I think the answer is, like any food, there has to be balance. We talk sometimes what comes up are fad diets and different things where we say it'd be better to have only one thing or another. But the answer to most questions is a balanced diet is important.
Tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja. Kuimarisha Kenya ni jukumu la Farm Kenya.
Well, thank you for staying with us here on this edition of Farm Kenya. Again, my name is Peter Wakaba. On this part of the show, we want to delve right into this conversation around how we can put some money in your pocket through the farming of this new improved bean variety, that is the Nyota bean. And the experts, of course, standing by here in studio to speak into that. But before we go, just to remind you that beans remain a staple food in many Kenyan households, providing essential nutrients and becoming a reliable source of incomes for farmers. Well, in addition of commodity prices today, we want to take a look at the market prices of the different bean varieties right across the country. That, of course, being the Moitemania, Rose Cocoa, and Mwezi Moja varieties. Take a look. Well, time to get into the conversation right now. And of course, our guests still here with us to have this discussion, Dr. David Karanja and Ruth Ndongo. Again, karibuni sana. Let's continue from where we left off. Dr., you were saying that while not everyone can be a contract farmer at the seed multiplication stage, there are lots of opportunities in the value chain to make money from beans. Let's get into that. Why would you say that Nyota bean stands head and shoulders above the other varieties in terms of enabling farmers to make money? You had said something about bean families.
True. One of the issues is the bean you are growing. Who are you growing it for? Who is your market? And there are two types of farmers. There is subsistence farming, and there is farmers who will do commercial. And when I mean commercial, you can be a commercial farmer starting from half an acre. So you must know who are you going to sell to, because there are four types of markets.
Yes.
There is the local market, your friends, neighbors, schools. There is the local broker. But now when a lot of people in that locality produce a lot, then it means the brokers, the what may not absorb, and the quality requires. Then you require to advance further to what we call the off-takers and processors.
Yes.
Now, the off-takers and processors are specific on what bean varieties they grow. Now, Nyota fits both domestic and industrial use. Then the other advantage is that it cooks fast,
Yes.
is sweet, and it has good levels of iron and zinc. So that makes it very competitive in the market. So then the question is, people along the value chain, what now do they do? And we tell people to have a behavioral change.
Yes.
The first behavioral change to avoid the mixes is people use certified seed of Nyota. And that's where somebody like Ruth comes in. They have to use the certified seed so that the quality is good.
Yes.
Because when it goes to the market, you can imagine going to a supermarket and you want to buy a packaged by the off-takers or processors, a packet of Nyota, and it's inside it has 20% another different variety.
What challenges will that create for a consumer? Because people may not be aware. Wanaenda tu wanapata maharagwe.
No, we're asking people to know, what are you consuming?
Yes.
Which variety are you consuming? You see, like a lot of people in Kenya go for the yellow bean.
Yes.
And simply because of one thing, The yellow bean doesn't have gas. It doesn't cause fragrance. But now, then the traders have brought all types of yellow beans in the country.
Yes.
So you find farmers are growing up to 6 different varieties. But one of the yellows has now fragrance.
Yes.
So it means even the consumers have to know which yellow are
where
they
it's
consuming.
coming from and why you're consuming
Yes.
it.
So we go back to Nyota, it also doesn't have fragrance.
Yes.
In our schools, a lot of parents, you go into some areas and you hear a lot of kids are getting sick. Maybe some schools are taking 10 to 20 kids per week to the hospital.
Yes. With
And you
stomach
find,
challenges.
yeah, stomach caused by the beans they are eating. And the main culprit are kawairimu, muitemania, because they are cheap. That's what a lot of schools go for. Then they cause problems. So what we start doing is that the esophagus, we start burning the kids as they grow. Because they are consuming the wrong beans, they get the gas, so they will start, they are tolerant.
Yes.
But it's continuous, some depending on their body and the genes, some succumb earlier. Then when these people start working, they will be spending money to go and buy their anti-acid. I'm not saying we stop the anti-acid guys making money,
Yes.
but we should prevent it.
Yes.
So one of the other major things is that we are saying schools check what beans, what varieties are they feeding their pupils and students. Yeah.
It's an interesting topic, Ruth, especially when you talked about the integrity, the sanctity of varieties. A lot of the challenges that people face is being able to trust that the thing that they're being sold is actually what is described. What do you have to do to ensure that these seeds stay pure? For example, you will plant and then bees will come and cross-pollinate with some different varieties in nearby fields and those sorts of things. How do you ensure that you have the right thing?
You see, when you're doing seed multiplication, there are some rules and guidelines. And for somebody like me,
Yes.
that is Christian, I
Yes.
have to make sure that I follow the rules.
Guidelines, yes.
They are the KEFIS officers. They have to come and make sure that what I'm doing on the farm is correct. So
there's an audit.
Yeah. And what I would urge other seed multipliers is that we should do the right thing because it pleases God and also because it is good. And what I know about the Nyota beans, right now, I think it's the best variety. It's the best right now for many reasons.
So when you talk about productivity compared to others, Daktari, what sorts of comparisons are we able to make so that if you tell farmers that the Nyota bean is more productive vis-a-vis the other beans, what sorts of differences can we point out?
I will start, like now the Kenya Meteorological Department,
Yes.
weather outlook for this season that is coming. They are talking about, especially in the semi-arid areas,
Yes.
that the rainfall will be between 250 and 400 millimeters. And the growing period will be between 50 and 65 days.
Yes.
So for a variety that matures in 90 days,
Yes.
that variety will be left high and dry. But for a variety like Nyota that matures in 70 days,
Yes.
if people follow the correct agronomic practices, then that rainfall should be adequate because the bean should be able to flower within 30 days, and within 60 days the bean has filled, and then it will be remaining the dry.
So essentially what we're saying is that in times when the prognosis is that the rainfall outlook might not be what is usually expected, then you hedge your bets by planting a variety like this Nyota, which should be able to withstand those conditions and go through the growing chain faster.
Yeah, that is very correct. Then we have the other areas we call the cold dry highlands. Then they are cold, but they are dry. So Nyota fits that particular rainfall pattern. Then to be able to pull through.
Okay.
Yeah. But when you asked about productivity,
yes,
it's for across the beans. A lot of people will go in, grow the beans, but don't follow the correct agronomic practices. So I have a simple guide. If you plant 1 kilogram of bean, you should be able to multiply it 20 times. So that means you plant 1 kilo, you get 20.
Get 20, wow.
If you do that, you can do 1 kilo, you get 40.
If you plant 90 kgs bag, you get 90
yeah.
bags.
Okay, put it a simple way.
Yes.
You have got a 2 kg packet of certified seed.
Yes.
And the weather is normal. Then you should be able to produce 1 bag of 90 from the 2 kg. When you're doing 1 kilo to 45, that's your productivity. But if you plant 1 kilo and get 10 kilos,
yes,
or plant 1 kilo and get 15,
yes,
which when you do a survey, that's what majority of farmers get.
Yes.
You have made a loss. So what it means is that you have removed the money from your pocket and put it in the soil, rather than soil giving you the money.
Yes.
So the farmers must follow the correct agronomic practices: time of planting, time of weeding, foliar application, controlling aphids and insects so that flowers don't abort, not spraying fungicides on bean flowers when they are flowering, because the fungicide will make the beans flower abort.
Yes.
So, and we give a simple guide like half an acre. Most farmers will do half an acre. So, half an acre, you are supposed to have 40,000 plants in that half an acre. So, farmers can do simple calculations.
Yes.
If 1 plant of bean produces 20 pods, and each pod have about 5,
yes,
then the farmer can calculate 40,000 times 20 times 5. Now compare that with the farmer who is getting 30 pods. So that means you calculate 40,000 plants times 30 pods times 5 seeds per pod. Already you will see they're in the same village, but this guy will get a bit more
much more
yield.
productive.
Yeah.
Okay, but a lot of farmers have challenges following these instructions. As a farmer who's been able to make it to the point where you can actually face and pass audits, Ruth, what is it that you do that sets you head and shoulders above other farmers? This discipline, those sorts of things, would you call it something like a secret ama kujitahidi tu and following the rules?
Okay, I think what Dr. Karanja has said is true.
Yes.
You have to do a lot of research.
Yes.
Follow the advice from agronomists. Make sure you also observe the weather so that you do your planting in the right time. You do the weeding in the right time.
Yes.
You apply the fungicides the right time. You do everything concerning farming in the right time. Yeah.
For a lot of people, they don't look at agriculture as a business, and then they will complain about losses and lack of productivity. I'm sure they are not cheap, the certified seeds, compared to, of course, people just going and picking their things. What would you say to those farmers who refuse to invest time and effort into doing the things that you are saying, and then still will complain about productivity? Because that is a lot of the more subsistence farmers that we have.
I would urge them to learn from us. Yeah.
Farming as a business, Daktari, especially when we are talking about the youth, because youth will be able to follow the rules, the regulations that we are talking about. What would large-scale absorption, large-scale adoption of these varieties do for this country in terms of food security and nutrition?
Nyota is being adopted in a lot of areas. They are what we are establishing called the bean corridors, an area where you have an area, a lot of bean corridors are being grown. But now for commercialization, we are urging people to work together, to like one another. The reason is you harvest 5 bags, you harvest 2 bags, you harvest a debe, you want to sell. The off-takers requires volume. So can people in that village just a lorry ya miguu 10, the 10-wheeled lorry, which is about 100 bags. So if in that village, they have to produce like 200 bags so that they consume another do with 50%, 100 of the same variety. Then 100 they sell. Now the youth comes in this way. Some, in most of the areas we are promoting, we are urging them to reason, to come and run and have a behavioral change. Everybody has a behavioral change. Instead of thinking like agriculture is for the backward. Some are hiring RAD. Some are even in universities. They hire RAD. Somebody thinks through, my parents cannot afford. So they hire RAD, they grow. depending on what is your costing, the costing is ranging from 28,000 to about 50,000 per acre to grow the beans. Then you ask yourself, what will be my productivity? Of course, somebody, one acre of Nyota is 24 kilos. And seed is not expensive because we tell people, there is a way we train people.
Yes.
You buy seed every third season, not every season. So if you divide the cost by 3, then it becomes to a third of the cost.
So you can actually replant them for 2 seasons?
Yes, 2 more seasons, but maintaining the quality so that you buy.
Yes.
We are trying to solve 2 problems. Farmers are saying there is no market for Nyota. The off-takers and processors, they are saying they are not getting enough quality tradable volumes of the variety. So that means farmers are organized, the youth can organize themselves in that particular village, combining with their parents together, and then they plant tradable volumes.
A lot of times the larger traders, the off-takers and those sorts of people, even here in Nairobi, will say that they are getting these volumes outside the country. You will hear of Tanzania, you will hear of Southern Ethiopia, you will hear of Uganda and such places. What is it that those places do differently that we are not able to do, hence the terms of, or is it simply the climate and the environment that gives them more productivity?
Maybe that. But I also think Kenyans, they have a lot of freedom to do what they want. So working together is an issue. Even the people who are running. Somebody wants to plant alone and doesn't want the neighbor to know what they are doing. Then you produce 5 bags. So you have a lot of bags lying around. Then what we require is a behavioral change towards commercial production of beans in Kenya. And also, like we have been urging the county governments to check which wards can do beans commercially and which wards can do beans subsistence. The wards in a sub-county that can do beans commercially, and commercially, I clarified this from half an acre, then you give them a different type of extension, including working together, bringing all the actors that do that, and then forming in those localities what we call bean business stakeholder platform. The word business comes in. So that now they are able to satisfy the market.
So the market is there.
The market is there, and in large quantity. The other day, we had an exporter who pulled out of the country because he wanted 20 metric tons every week to export to some of the countries. But then, where the 20 quality?
So even the export market still does exist for people who will produce those. Okay, interesting. Well, just as the view aside, I want to take you through some facts around these beans, just to give you a sort of idea of what we are talking about, especially seeing as the commercial aspects are quite something to look into. Now, things you might not know about this Nyota bean variety. Did you know that this is not just an ordinary bean? It's supposed to be a game changer for farmers. First, it stands out with its light pink flowers and uniform flowering period, meaning that all the pods mature at the same time, making harvesting quite easy, in fact, making it a breeze. Now, Nyota beans flower in just about 30 to 40 days and mature within 60 to 70 days, giving farmers a quick turnaround. Plus, they are drought tolerant, making them a reliable choice even in dry conditions. And here's the best part. Nyota beans are high yielding. Farmers can harvest between 6 to 10 bags per acre. That's about 1,400 to 2,000 kilograms per hectare. Not to mention that these beans have a brilliant red mottled grain, making them not only nutritious, but also visually appealing for the market. Well, there, now you know, Nyota beans are the future of resilient and profitable farming. Let's come back to the discussion. Just before we go, we have just 1 or 2 minutes. If a farmer is listening to us, if a youth is listening to us, and they want to get into this space, where would you advise them to start?
The first is they need to talk closely with the agricultural extension officers. Some counties are lucky. Caro is rolling out together with our partner SIAT, the International Center for Tropical Agriculture. We are rolling out several trainings on bean agronomy and application of weather. Farmers are encouraged to attend that. farmers get certified seed.
Yes.
And also not to leave the schools, secondary schools, primary schools. If they have a garden, we are encouraging them to start planting these beans for the kids to start running.
Yes.
The ones that have school feeding,
Yes.
And the parents take the beans.
Yes.
I would urge the parents that have nyota not to sell nyota and then go to the market to buy cheap beans and take to school. Let the parents take nyota to the school as part of the school feeding. And also to the headmasters to start learning what nyota is.
Yes.
So that they start purchasing nyota from their local farmers. The ones that are in areas where they don't produce nyota, they get their traders to supply them quality nyota grain, and their students will be happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's finish off with Ruth. Looking at this space, especially the fact that you're a woman, and as you saw, the conversation that women tend to be a bit disenfranchised in this space. What would you advise to women who want to get into this space, be seeing the journey that you have walked? How would you advise them to start out and get into farming of beans?
Okay. What I would like to mention some few things again about nyota beans, because they are very good for adolescents.
Yes.
Because they have iron, they have zinc,
yes,
they have proteins. So I would urge mothers like me,
yes,
at least to start with a small portion for their families. After tasting, after cooking them, they will know that for real, it's a good variety of beans. So we can start with a small piece of land, then they can go to larger areas. They can also seek advice from agronomists and also from people like us that are already in it, because we are willing to help them.
Quite interesting. And for spaces, Daktari, where the extension officers might not be available, you talked about agrovets in specific areas that have these things. Maybe just in closing, to your call to action to farmers out there about going and working with people, even in agrovets, who would be able to give them these seeds and the advice that they need.
There is a lot of information outside there. Also, I think Caro and its partners will be rolling out things on social media.
Yes.
So the farmers can be able to do that. And also, I think in some counties, there are agrovets who are lucky have been trained on about these varieties. But the first start is the farmers to talk to the agrovets, find out who are they going to sell to. They also give extension services. And when farmers are organized in the groups, the county extension staff, the Caro centers that are near them will be able to do that. This week, we are calling the Caro Open Day Week. And farmers can visit the various Caro centers to be able to get further information. Like tomorrow, we are doing a Caro Open Week in Caro Katumani, where even we will be testing a new product for beans. It's a pre-cooked product, where we will be testing, can it feed 30 kids from 1 kilo? Okay. So those are some of the options that farmers will be able to see.
Well, quite an interesting conversation there, although now time has run out. Next time we have this opportunity, I think we'll get into the industrial applications, because that, I think, is a new avenue for creation of the value along this entire market system. But to both our guests, Asante Sana, Daktari and Ruth, for taking the time to talk to us. Unfortunately, we are at the end of our conversation today, but your conversation and insight has been invaluable. And of course, to our viewers, knowing that here we give you news and information that you can use here on Farm Kenya. That brings us to the end of this conversation here today. Do make a date with us again tomorrow, same time, for more of this insightful conversation. But from us here, it is Koharia Konana. Do keep it KTN. Of course, up next is the news in Swahili. My name is Peter Akaba. Do continue to enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Kuwa mkono ambao unalima ardhi, mlango wa kulima, kuwa mshindi, kuwa na uhakika sasa, kukulea mustakabali wa baadaye. Tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja.